If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
their age,
the way they speak.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
I always had to be so good, no one could ignore me. Carve my path with data and drive. But some people only see who I am on paper. The paper ceiling, the limitations from degree screens to stereotypes that are holding back over 70 million stars. Workers skilled through alternative routes rather than a bachelor's degree. It's time for skills to speak for themselves. Find resources for breaking through barriers at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Early break with Sip and Jake.
Quick question. Where does the term dog pop? 'Cause I've never seen a pile of dogs in my life. I've never seen that. If we've ever seen just driving down the road, and it's like, well, there's 12 dogs on top of each other. So where does dog pile come from?
Well, that's a good question.
And that is a standard.
That's a good question.
If you say dog pile to anyone, they know it. It's dog pile. Never seen a pile of dogs. Never in my life.
I want to know where that comes from.
Early break with Sip and Jake from 6 to 8 every weekday morning. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Welcome into the AOE with AD. Attitude over everything. Former Husker football national champion, speaker, and author, Aaron Davis. On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Boom, boom, boom. Ladies and gents, welcome. It is Wednesday night. It is hump day here at 90.7 The Ticket. The AOE, attitude over everything. It's The Ticket. Harrison, what's happening, big dog? How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good.
It's been a few weeks, brother.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks. I've still had a lot of good shows coming out. Luckily, shout out to Nick for setting that up for 302 the 4th, getting all that lined up. That's a lot of work, man. To plan 24 hours worth of shows when no one's around takes a little bit more than you'd imagine. So shout out to Nick for setting that up.
You know, I give Nick a lot of hard times quite a bit, but he gets it done, man.
Yeah, he does.
He gets it done. He gets it done. And it seems like it was crazy because it's like 7:03 right now. And I was here at 8 o'clock this morning, actually 7:55 this morning. So it's like
just in time.
12 hours later, we're here, man. We're here back again. Harrison, this week has been such a crazy week. And tonight, folks, first of all, hope your week has been going great. No matter what you're going through, I'm going to tell you, keep going through it. It's the only way to get through it. You can stop, you can pause, you can rest, you can pray, you can pontificate. But at the end of the day, you got to keep going. So hopefully this next 57 minutes helps you keep going through the rest of your week. We got tomorrow, Thursday, gleaming down us. Tonight, Harrison, man, my heart is just a little troubled with the locker rooms, man. In light of what's taken place at Northwestern, and it's not going to be a bashing show against the former coach of Northwestern, Pat Fitzgerald, their president, Michael Shield, their AD, Greg. I mean, my heart goes out for the players.
Yeah.
The players. Because here's the reality. Fitzgerald's going to be fine.
Mm-hmm. He's got the money.
Yeah, he's got the money. He's going to be fine. Now, does it hurt because he's a Hall of Famer? At Northwestern, the College Football Hall of Fame, Shield has only been there since September 12th of last year. I mean, literally, he's not even been there a year.
Mm-hmm.
We got 2 months, a month and a half before he's been there a year. Greg is the athletic director, has only been there a short amount of time as well, 2 years, I believe. But, dude, the sacredness of the locker room. So that's tonight is about why is a locker room so here's, let me ask you this, man. You grew up where? I know this, but I want the listeners to know this too, though.
Northeast Nebraska, a small town.
Name of the town?
Hardington.
Did you go to Cedar Catholic or public?
Cedar Catholic.
Yes. I got my good buddy Zimmer.
Okay.
You know Zimmy.
Yeah.
Zimmy was there. Tell me about your locker room experiences and how sacred the locker room was to you.
It didn't smell good in there, but it was a sacred spot. I can say that much. I remember that for football season that you get a lot of complaints about the smells coming out from the locker room. But no, it was a sacred place in there. I mean, I was in a generation, right, where phones were around. They TikTok and all that stuff was.
You graduated what year?
18.
So
everyone had smartphones.
Basically.
Yep. But people would bring their phones out, after the game if we won, and everyone's just having a good time. But as far as like speeches like that, like I don't ever remember people having their phones ever really recording in the locker room, unless it's like after a game and you won.
It was sacred.
Mm-hmm.
Even, Harris, I'm going to say this, though. Even the smells. So listeners are going, wait a minute, how are smells sacred? What are you talking about? If you've been in athletics before, Harrison, even the smells were sacred, weren't they?
Mm-hmm. It stays in the locker room.
It stays there. So what went down in the locker room stayed in the locker room within reason.
Mm-hmm.
My heart, and we talked about this a number of times. Actually, heck, it started Friday when everything jumped off at Northwestern. When President Shield, the president at Northwestern University, said a 2-week suspension is what he said eventually. 2 weeks, a 2-week suspension. And then on Monday, and then over the news cycle, and I think Friday when he mentioned it,
mm-hmm.
I'm not him, so I'm not going to judge for him. I'm not going to be that guy that's going to pile on. I don't want to do that because we've always made some decisions. I think everyone listening, Harrison, I'm just going to safely assume you've made some decisions. You're like, no, that was dumb.
Yeah.
That was
2020. You want to, unless you don't know the facts, which we don't. There's still names that we don't know.
We still don't know.
So you can't really just dog on them.
Exactly.
Right now. There's still information being sought out.
And Harrison, what you're saying is so true because I don't want to pile on someone. To me, the worst thing you do is kick someone when they're down, unless it's something just like malicious. You look at Larry Nassar at Michigan State.
Yeah.
Now that far as that goes, you know what? My mom and dad always say that nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. So I'm not going to say anything at all. In this situation here with Shield, the president at Northwestern, Greg, the AD, Fitzgerald, I mean, it's horrible. That situation is bad. It doesn't look good. And the more time that goes, the more things are going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to focus on the locker room because I've always believed this. When you desecrate the sacred, you pay a price.
Yeah, Northwestern, I do worry about their football program as a whole. And it might even, what do the other athletics look like? But like you said about the players, there's players that might be so far removed from that whole situation. Right. We don't know the full story yet, but those guys, depending on how this goes in these next few seasons, like that could be the downfall of Northwestern football.
Harrison, you're too young to remember this, man. And I was actually young, but when Eric Dickerson played for SMU, they called them Pony Express.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of things that happened during that time. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
NIL before NIL. Let's just say that. And SMU was penalized with the death penalty. Okay. To where they were just like, there's no football and there's nothing going on like that. My fear for these kids, not the adults in the room, because in my opinion, the adults in the room should have been taken care of and seeing what the kids, the college students. Now, people say, well, they're not kids. Well, they're teenagers still for the most part.
Yeah, I've changed a lot. Like, I don't like that argument because I remember what I was like when I got down here in 2018. When I graduated, there's no way. I'm not the same person, not even remotely close.
You're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
You're not the same. The adults in the room allowed teenagers and young adults to do things, allegedly. But allegedly I think is slipping away quite a bit by the more evidence that comes out because, and kudos to the students at the Daily Northwestern that did meticulous study. They were studious, meticulous. They say they have videos, they have pictures, etc. that was
6
going
months
on.
worth.
6 months worth.
Mm-hmm.
My heart just goes out for the players there, in particular the ones that had nothing to do with it, Harrison. Had nothing to do with it. And now they're sitting in a situation 52, 51 days, give or take, away from opening up against
Mm-hmm.
Rutgers. And they're thinking, we have a new coach, first of all. Their coach is gone. How do you get the locker room sacred again because it's been desecrated?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
I'm going to say this. In the good book, the good Bible, the good book, Word of God, if you would. Everybody's different faiths, backgrounds, etc. That's why I love our podcast and our live as well. In Matthew, Christ goes into the temple and he starts turning up the tables because you said you have made the temple a den of thieves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from what we've been hearing, I'm not going to say they did this, but what we're hearing, they've made a sacred place and they desegregated it. I mean, they've made it, they've desacred the sacred. And it's like the locker room was a place to where, man, you can unwind. You can just be you. You feel safe. There shouldn't be any phones, at least be recording anything. If it's a victory, that's one thing. But you even think about, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm bringing this up. My beloved Steelers, when Antonio Brown has his phone in there doing his deal, And Tomlin came down on him hard because this is not the place.
Mhm.
Harrison, when did we screw up the locker room, man?
I really think this is gonna sound me. I don't want to like come down on the younger generation, but think about how hard it is for them to separate reality from online. Right? Is that sacred place even in their thought at this point? I mean, so much of their lives is correlated with online. I don't know if there's even like a wall between there. So do they even realize what they're doing is breaking that sacred place?
And and Harrison, you made a great point. I always say, is it reels or is it reality? Is it reels or is it reality? And reels, for those who are not on social media, by reels I mean those who do reels on Instagram, etc. There's reels on there you can record, but there's a big difference between reels and reality. And I think we've crossed an impasse to where we no longer know the difference. It's become fuzzy between the reels and the reality. Hence why we have in Evanston, Illinois, and my guest that'll be up at the bottom of the hour at 7:30, a former Northwestern attendee, one of my best friend, Aiken Udofia, attended Northwestern and played basketball there. But when I think about the locker room, I think about sanctity. So our prayer at Nebraska, and folks, I was a bench warmer, and people say, Aaron Davis, I remember you played for Nebraska. I'm like, no, you don't. If you remember me, an 80th string wide receiver, you're a sick Husker fan. You need therapy. Put it that way. Sick Husker fan and need therapy. But our locker room, though, and my older brother, Mark Davis, was the equipment manager for a number of years at Nebraska when he was in school there. And I remember as a kid, from 83, 84, 85, 86 with Rozier and all those guys picking up the towels, etc. And the camaraderie they had in the locker room, the brotherhood that's in the locker room. There were tears, there was laughter, there was joy that was in the locker room, but it was protected. In fact, Harrison, I'll tell you this, before you got in the locker room, there were security guards there. So you had to have, your credentials, etc. And my brother Mark would always, he would usher me. He's good. He's with me.
Right.
So not just anyone could get in the locker room. Now with cell phones and technology, not only can it get there, but they'll Instagram it live, they'll Facebook it live, etc. We have lost the purpose in the sanctity of the locker room.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, we would always say this prayer. I'm going to say it. Dear Lord, in the battles we go through life, we ask for a chance that's fair. A chance to equal our stride, a chance to do or dare. If we should win, let it be by the code, faith and honor held high. If we should lose, we'll stand by the road and cheer as the winners go by. Day by day. Now, this is part, Harrison. When the D linemen, offensive linemen, those guys would animate it. And there's language I won't share on here.
We broke down that.
We broke that down.
Catholic, we did too.
That's right.
Those linemen, they get into it.
They get into it. What position do you play, Harrison?
Tight end, outside
Tight end.
linebacker.
So you're basically a line guy. And you guys got into it. And we would say day by day, and it would get louder. We get better and better. A team that can't be beat, and we would say loud, won't be beat. That's sanctity. That's sacred. That's our locker room. There was no press, no media. In any videos that anyone got, it was because internally we let it out. Externally, I miss those days.
I'm 24 and I miss those days.
Yes.
That tells you how fast technology is moving.
It's moving. And Harrison, like you said, you're 24 years old. You look how fast this technology has gone to where, and I'm not talking the team out west. We know who they are with Deion. And folks, I know we talk in the mornings about Deion sometimes. Other shows talk about Deion. I'm not a person. I don't want everyone videotaping everything we do. Some things, as my mom and dad would say, God bless their souls. Some things you close your curtains down and keep it in-house.
Amen. Not enough of that anymore.
There's not enough of that, Harrison. I'm an in-house guy. I don't want everyone hearing and seeing everything we talk about on our day-to-day. I just don't. However, the world's changed. Some things we have to adjust to, we have to change to. But when we said that prayer, dear Lord, in the battles we go through life, I didn't want everyone hearing that until after the fact. Coach Osborne, Now, I know I'm going to be biased here because he was my coach. Okay, folks, I'm going to be biased a lot. But the guy won 80% of his games. So whether it's biased or not, but it's fact. The guy won a lot of his games. He kept everything close to the hip, but he protected our locker room. I don't understand how the locker room allegedly, and I'm going to keep saying that allegedly because I'm not going to keep throwing dirt on someone that's down. But the reality is there's a lot of facts out there, pictures, videos that don't look good on behalf of Northwestern at this point. How did you lose the locker room? You lose players, you lose kids, but when you lose the locker room, you're in a whole different realm of smoke. And it's like I talked about. I think about my locker rooms, man, and how growing up here in Lincoln, Nebraska, how we kept the sanctity of our locker room desecrated. My first locker room was the Salvation Army Community Center, the Shield. They play small fry basketball, Harrison. They've been doing that since the late 1950s, early 1960s. The late Frank Sheridan was my basketball coach.
Okay, nice.
Yes. Did you play small fry basketball?
Do I play what?
Small fry basketball?
Yeah, we had a little league up in Hartington, up at the auditorium. It was the best. You get the newspaper, you see the teams are out. I love that feeling, man. That was when they talked about before. That's when youth sports were at their peak. It was about recreation, not business. But that's another topic.
And dude, I'm going to jot it down. Recreation, not business. Because right now, there's no recreation. It's business.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime they're playing 60 games a year.
I saw that one.
Oh, not even a year. A summer.
4 months.
4 months. 60 games.
Every other day.
Every other day they're playing.
Comes out to for an average.
Harrison, it's not recreation. It's business right now. But I think about the locker room that I had at the top. We called it the Shield is what we called it. But the Salvation Army Community Center right there in 27th and Potter, I think about the late Frank Sheridan, who was my first basketball coach as a kid. That was my first locker room. And the late Larry Lassick, where I played for Bowen's Plumbing.
Okay.
And it was basketball, and we loved it, man. And then I think about when I got to junior high, it was Color Middle School. We're on our station right now located is on 48th and O Street. It was just to the north and a block and a half away at Color Middle School, the Color Cougars. I think about the late George Nutt, the late Fred Richardson, Mr. Carrie Haynes, who was our locker room. The locker room was sacred. There were certain things that we kept in the locker room, but it was always done with respect. I think about Lincoln High. I'm a Link, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big Link. Now I know. Now when I was in high school, Harrison, they have Standing Bear. They have North Star. They have Southwest, Northwest. And when I was in school, because I'm 25 years old. Gosh, I'm old even just saying that, Harrison. Good gosh. When you were born, I was your age. Now think about that for a second, homie. When you were born, I was your age. Actually, a year older. I was 25. Because when is your birthday?
April 12th, 99.
And you're 24 right now.
24.
Good gosh, Harrison, I'm getting old, man.
Hey, at least you got to see Nebraska in the glory days. I always say that people in my generation, like we 99. It's kind of right when we got into football, is right when it started to skew, which is a little tough. So that's why it's good to have you guys around the station talk about when it used to be good. But
and you're going, I don't believe you if there wasn't YouTube.
No, seriously. If we didn't have like film and those trophies, if the trophies weren't in there, I'd second guess it.
You'd second guess it quite a bit.
Yeah.
I may have my championship ring in my bag because I was doing the event yesterday. Let me see if I have it in my bag. Let me see if I'll find it at the break. Oh, Harrison, there's a championship ring.
Dude, yeah, let me see this.
He's got the national championship ring in his hand. That's a 94 right there. That ring is older than you.
That's incredible.
Well, Harrison, that national championship you're holding right there from 94, we beat Miami in the Orange Bowl.
13-0.
13-0. We didn't lose. There's something that Ricky Simmons would always say, my big Husker brother, all of our big Husker brothers would always say. He goes, you know what? We made a decision. We're not going to lose today. Where was that done at? The locker room. Where was the blood, sweat, and tears after practice? The locker room. After a defeat that hurt you to your core to where literally your heart hurt and you had a frog in your throat. The locker room. Sheer exhilaration. The locker room. At Lincoln High School, Coach Sham Sharp, my freshman year, Coach Hitz, Coach Alex Shranko, Coach Mike Foltz, Coach Harold Simpson, my junior and senior year, Coach Eric Knoll, Coach Jenish, Coach Bob White when I ran track, Coach Headley, who's my neighbor down the street, and she still runs like crazy.
Good for her, man.
Dude, okay, so I'm 49, and I was walking my dog just 2 nights ago, and it was her oldest. It was her oldest son and his wife and her grandchild. She goes, he was in my belly when I was training you guys. I'm thinking, okay, now I feel really old right now. He's 32 right now, dude. So I was 17. And I'm looking at this guy. He's a big dude, good looking dude. But Coach Headley and Coach Drought, that was at Lincoln Heights. And I got to the locker room at Nebraska. Coach Osborne, Coach Brown, Coach Tennifer, Coach Gill, Coach Young, Coach Darlington, Coach McBride, Coach Samuel, Coach Bush, who's on Sip and Jake with those guys in the morning, and our psychologist, Coach Sark. We called him Coach, but he was our psychologist, and there's other names as well. Harrison, we have forgotten about the sanctity of the locker room. We've desecrated it with social media, hazing that shouldn't happen. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to put it out there right now. People say, what, Nebraska, did you guys do that? You know what we did in Nebraska, man? We called it a thing called pay rent. And I'm just going to say this. We didn't do anything like what was allegedly done at Northwestern. Not even remotely close. Mm-hmm. Not remotely close. Not even remotely. I don't understand how they forgot about the sanctity of the locker room by delving into things that are allegedly been said they were doing. Hence why you have a coach who's a Hall of Famer at the school, Hall of Famer in college football, who's been there since 2006, I believe, who's no longer there. Who's now also lawyered up.
Mm-hmm.
Their president, Michael Schill, who's only been there since September 12th, he's under the gun. Their athletic director, Greg, is under the gun as well. Here's my thing about the locker room. With all the people that come in and out of a locker room on a daily basis, I don't know how one person could say, I didn't know this was going on. If allegedly it was. I want to keep saying that, Harrison, because I'm not going to say, oh, this happened. But apparently, with everything that's come about, well, Fitzgerald's not getting fired if it didn't happen.
Yeah, it's not nothing. It's
not nothing.
That.
Exactly. Yeah. They kind of say the old saying, when there's smoke, there's fire. Well, when you have close to a dozen players that said, yeah, this happened. And the Daily Northwestern, and here's what I'm going to say too. Harrison, I don't think those kids, young adults at Northwestern, get enough credit from the Daily Northwestern because they simply said, you know what? We're going to keep digging until we find. And some people, and I've even seen this on Twitter and social media, oh, they had a vendetta. Well, if there's pictures and videos, there's not a vendetta. Mm-hmm. This is evidence that's right there.
That's just good journalism.
That's good journalism.
Yeah, if you don't know the full story, you don't get to say the full story.
Exactly. And think about this. If they did reveal the full story and they had that, then they'd be called bad journalists.
Yeah.
Here's one thing. I'm going to give a shout out to Michael Wilbon. Don't know him from Adam. But I was very, very curious, and I was very attuned to what he was going to say yesterday because he's been a board of trustee for the past, I believe, 13 to 16 years. He's a Northwestern grad. He's on ESPN, obviously. And I enjoy Michael Wilbon. I really do. I have nothing but respect for the guy. He showed contriteness. He showed honesty. He showed diplomacy. And he just goes, it hurts. And, think about this. Now, granted, at Nebraska, we've had situations here as well. It hurts when your alma mater is hurting. So I'm not going to be one to throw, but I was glad to hear him just be like, you know what? This stinks. It hurts. I hate it. I can't stand it. This is what's going on. And I think what's going to happen now, I seriously think there'll be more heads that'll roll later as they dig more and find out more evidence. My biggest question mark right now, though, Harrison, as far as the locker room and how all of this has desecrated the locker room, what was Michael Schill thinking when he only suspended him for 2 weeks? Patrick Fitzgerald, the former coach at Northwestern, on Friday, 2 weeks. First of all, you can't have contact with the players right now anyway because of the dead period. And with all the evidence he had, why not just say indefinitely until we find out more? Leave it at that. You're safe from a lawsuit at that point, which Fitzgerald lured up, and say, wait a minute. That's not the conversation we had last time. And when Fitzgerald's defense, if there's a defense, I'm going to say that. I'm going to put a disclaimer there. If there's a defense, at least you say, until we find out more, let's say indefinitely, because you know what? It saves me and you from later humility. 38 hours earlier, there's humility.
That's a good point.
I just don't understand that. But, folks, we will dive more into that. Some of the things that I feel that are important about a locker room. The sense of camaraderie it builds, confidentiality, pregame rituals and mental preparation, emotional highs and lows happen in the locker room because I can still remember, folks, in 1993, when you weren't born yet, Harrison. Gosh dang it, I'm getting old. When we got hustled by Florida State by those refs when Lloyd scores without the ball in his hands and Corey Dixon runs a touchdown back, they call a clip where there was no clip. The tears and the anger, the frustration, the anxiety and sadness in that locker room, all these years later, I'll never forget. And my heart goes to Evanston with those kids because they know there were things done in that locker room that may be called into question right now. Folks, it's the Attitude Over Everything. This is AD. We got Harrison holding down the ticket. We'll be right back. We got a special guest coming up as well, who was a student at Northwestern and my best friend as well. Won a dunking contest in the old Chicago Bulls Stadium. We have him come up as well. Stick with us. We'll be right back. The Ticket.
Happy hour.
It's really weird also to be like looking at you from these two seats. I've never been able to see your full body when we've done a show.
Do you like what you see?
I don't. I don't.
I'm working out now because I feel like I'm important.
That's not why I'm working out. I'm working out so I can feel better.
Mm-hmm. I need to start working out because when my daughter gets old enough and she wants to have a boyfriend, I need to be able to beat him up. That's the only thing. I'm not gonna like threaten anybody, but I just need. Oh, 100%.
Weekdays from 1 to 2.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job; it's a career. And right now, they've raised wages again, and they're hiring for production operators at $24.62 per hour, which grows to $28.97 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $33.36 per hour, with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates, with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or apply, go to continentaljobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Hi, it's Charlie Stone again, and with me on the line, Andy Goodyear, General Manager of Honda of Lincoln. Andy, I know how proud you and everyone at the dealership are to earn the prestigious Honda President's Award year after year, 17 times. Tell our listeners what it means to you and your customers.
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, all of us are extremely proud to have earned this award, and I want all of our customers to know it's not just earned by one person's effort. It's the entire dealership, sales, parts, and our amazing service department.
17 times. Wow. How does that compare to other Honda dealers?
This award is only given to the most elite dealerships that demonstrate excellence. We really do strive to go above and beyond for the ultimate customer experience before and after the sale, Charlie.
That's why for 2022, Honda of Lincoln is once again Nebraska's #1 volume Honda dealer. Come experience the Honda of Lincoln way of doing business, 27th and Yankee Hill Road, or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
Repeat after me. I will not touch the fuse box.
I will probably not touch the fuse box.
Sip, do you remember what happened last time?
Yeah, I remember.
What happened?
Half of the city block lost power.
And?
My chicken condo went haywire.
That's right. The chickens ran wild. So what do we do instead?
Call Joe at Ambition Electric and let him handle everything. Look, saved on speed dial.
Ambition Electric, 402-217-3415, or online at ambitionelectric.com. Attention all Wings fans. 89-cent wings are back on Tuesdays at Buffalo Wings and Rings in Lincoln. Enjoy the best wings in town for boneless or traditional at a price that makes the whole family happy. And now at the Williamsburg Village Wings and Rings, you can enjoy $1.50 tall boys in Bud Light, Coors Light, Busch Light, and Michelob Ultra every day after 7 p.m. and all day on Sundays. Get to Wings and Rings today and make sure to stop by on Tuesdays for 89-cent wings. Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
The Lincoln forecast for today, we'll see a chance of showers and storms this morning. We'll see gradual clearing and partly sunny skies this afternoon with a high of around 89. Tonight, mostly clear skies are expected with a low of around 67. And tomorrow, partly sunny skies again, along with a chance of spotty showers and storms. We'll see a high around 91. These are all this outcome from 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back to the AOE with AD on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Aaron Davis.
Folks, we're back. It is Wednesday. It is hump day. It is 7:31 on this Wednesday. We're on the other side. I hope you folks have enjoyed your week. We're talking about the sacredness of the locker room. And folks, my guests, my best friend from 9th grade, many, many moons ago, Akam Udofia. We call him EU because some of you are going to say, okay, how do we pronounce that? Just say EU. All right. There was an artist back in the day called EU called Doing the Butt. You got to look that up.
Yeah,
Harrison.
you lost me there.
Harrison was like, okay, dude, I'm 24. The song is older than you. Akam Udofia, what's happening, big dog?
Hey, what's going on, AD, man? Glad to be with you.
Akam, I'm so glad you're with us tonight, man. Akam, your family, first of all, has a long tradition at Northwestern, but me and Akam go back, folks, since 9th grade. He was at Goodrich. I was at Color. Then we connected at Lincoln High. Our families go back many, many years. Akam, I'm going to ask you this, man. I'm going to ask you this. What was it like for you to be a student at Northwestern? Because in Harrison, I always say the only class that me and Akam had in school were gym and lunch. He was in a different part of Lincoln High. Was like, oh, they had lights, they had like fragrance, little munchies, charcuterie boards.
I don't think we had those back in the 90s.
Akam, Jesus, I've never seen before. I'm on Velveeta. You're having a good cheese, all right? But Akam, when you left Lincoln, Nebraska to go to Northwestern, where one of your older brothers went, because Akam, correct me if I'm wrong, Cornell, MIT, and Northwestern?
Yep, that is correct.
Yes.
That is correct.
So,
yep.
Harrison, go ahead, brother.
No, so, when I left and went to Northwestern, it was a tradition. So my oldest brother went to Northwestern. So I had the privilege of being up there and understanding, being in Chicago. And when I went up there, understanding what kind of school it was, all school is tough, but Northwestern's had a little bit different the way that they emphasize their academics. So they don't play around with that at all. Some of the things you can get away with at some other schools, you can't get away with that.
Right.
Just the facts. Just the facts.
Akam, okay, so you think about this. You're coming from a history of your brothers that were at all Ivy League schools. Again, folks, I'm going to say Cornell, MIT, and Northwestern. And how much, God rest your pop's soul, Mr. Ike P. Udofia was he was a giant. He was a giant, very little man, but a giant. And how he stressed academics so much. And you look at the players on that roster right now at Northwestern, similar backgrounds as yours, some different, some the same, etc. Akam, what was the biggest eye opener for you when you got to Northwestern University? You leave Lincoln, Nebraska, graduate of Lincoln High. What was the biggest eye opener for you from an academic and athletic side? Because you played basketball. What was the biggest eye opener for you?
I would say, the biggest thing for me was, like you alluded to, coming from Lincoln High, great academic school for high school. The standards are just different. So the expectations of whatever it is, whether you're playing football, basketball, lacrosse, it doesn't matter. You just understand that that's great. You're going to play on your field or your court, but the most important thing are these grades. So they definitely stress that to a whole different level from that standpoint. Didn't care if you had a game on a Tuesday. You might have a midterm on Monday night or even Tuesday morning. You better make sure that you had that midterm and you produced, because if you didn't, then all of a sudden the academic standards kick in. So it was definitely a shock from that standpoint. Just the way that they emphasize the importance of it. You see the stories of, and you hear about it. It's one thing to hear about it, with the Stanfords of the world, the Harvards of the world. Stanford has done well in football, basketball, all those things. But from, a school like Northwestern, they're inhibited by the type of athlete they can bring in. They want your top athletes, and they were in the Big Ten at that point as well. And in order to compete in the Big Ten, you have to have a certain type of athlete as well. But those athletes also have a whole different academic standard that they have to qualify under. So that, is always going to be the challenge at a school like Northwestern. And from that standpoint, I think they were going in the right direction. They've been, had some success on the football field. Honestly, the my freshman year was Gary Barnett's first year at Northwestern. And he's actually the one who was attributed with the turnaround in Northwestern. So it was, he kind of brought that demeanor in from that standpoint. We're going to compete on the football field as well, because prior to him being there, I think Northwestern had one of the longest losing streaks in college football, not just Big Ten, in college football. So understanding that, he understood that, and I think he did a really good job of starting that culture that Barnett started, and then also knowing that Pat Fitzgerald was a part of that, part of the '95 Rose Bowl team. So I think he adopted that and then took that on and carried it on to some of the things that he was able to build within that program. For it was crazy because they said he'd been there for 17 years. I was like, wow, that's crazy, because time goes fast.
It really
doesn't seem like 17 years, because he was literally there when I was there. So just seeing what he had done with that, with the strict guidelines and rules that he had in order to just get people eligible to play to get on the field. So to your point, yeah, it's a different ball game within that place because of the prestige of that school. So
Akim, you want a dunking contest when you were there in college as well at Northwestern, the old Chicago Bulls Stadium. Before I go to Coach Randy Walker, God rest his soul, who passed away, that opened the door up obviously for Fitzgerald to take over as a coach. Akim, going from Lincoln, a town of, at that time, it wasn't 300,000 like we are now. It was probably, 220. It was over 200,000, give or take. You go there, you won a dunking contest with all your comrades, and you played against the Fab Five.
Yeah.
What was that like winning a dunking contest there, man?
It was just a different world, coming from Lincoln and going up there, and then all of a sudden it was funny because you go from that standpoint of competing against the likes of the talent that we had in the state, and then all of a sudden you're thrust into big dog Glenn Robinson was at Purdue.
The Fab Five, the big dog.
The Fab Five was their sophomore year, my freshman year. Just a level of talent and competition. I thought we were pretty dang good, but I think we only won 3 games in the Big Ten. Being good is all relative.
Right.
But yeah, it was just an eye opener from that standpoint. Just seeing the level of competition, of course, just the city, the size of Chicago, because people say that Northwestern is in Evanston, but they don't understand that Evanston is really just Chicago. It's just Western Chicago.
Right.
So all the perils of a freshman coming into school at that point of being away from home for the first time, being in a major metropolitan capital as Chicago, and then being away from home, not having your parents' guidance, not having any rules as far as that, setting your own boundaries, your own standards. And then also the academic rigor. So it just makes it a tough transition. And so coaches like Barnett, coaches like Randy Walker, coaches like Pat Fitzgerald were able to kind of bridge that for people who are coming into something that was completely different from what they're used to.
When we come back from break, man, I want to talk to you more about, because you've had you've coached a long time in the Omaha metro area. You've seen a lot of athletes. The locker room, and this one's called, obviously this talk tonight is about the sacredness of the locker room, and how allegedly there's things at Northwestern to where they desecrated the locker room with some of the alleged actions. I want to keep stressing alleged. I say that loosely, but also affirmatively, in that there is video that has been released. There are pictures, etc. But like I said, I was telling Harrison this earlier, EU, I don't want to beat someone down when they're already down. But how do you get the locker room back? Akim, the fabric of Northwestern. You were a student at Northwestern, very prestigious school. And I've said this ad nauseum. If Northwestern was on the East or West Coast, it'd be an Ivy League school. Bottom line. They're the Stanford on the left side. They're the Harvard, etc. on the right side. Cornell, MIT, we can go on and on and on what they are. With Akim, the lay of the land, the fabric of Northwestern. How do you win the locker room back? You've coached at a high level. You've coached a lot of kids that are playing collegiate level. Geez, Alex Gordon. Heck, you coached him when he was a kid, as far as that goes. So when we come back from the break, I want to talk to you about how do you get this locker room back after it's allegedly been desegregated a little bit. I don't want to say desegregated because it's not black and white, but desecrated, I would say. How do you do that to where you have guys that may feel on one side, the other? How do you bring them back together? Folks, we're going to take a quick break. We have EU, Acom Udofia, Northwestern attendee at Northwestern College, Northwestern University in Chicago, knows the lay of the land. We'll be right back. AOE, attitude, everything. We'll be right back. The ticket.
General contractors, business owners, property owners. The success of your business requires doing business with the right people. And the right people when it comes to drywall, acoustical ceilings, and specialty products are at Premier Drywall. Kevin and his crew will give your project the response and attention it deserves.
You'll get all of the attention to detail and quality that you would expect from someone who's been in the business for 30 years. For your new builds, build-outs, or renovations, reach out to Kevin. Kevin at premierdw.com. Premier Drywall in Lincoln.
July marks 8 years of the Body Shop being open for business and serving Lincoln the best massage options in the area. Dennis and his team would like to thank all customers who have stopped in and let them relieve the pains and stress in their lives. Your continued business allows them to do what they are passionate about. Book an appointment today at thebodyshoplincoln.com. The Body Shop, your go-to for all types of massages at 48th and A.
Are you working in or looking to get into the electrical construction industry? The electrical workers of Local Union 265 are now hiring licensed journeymen and apprentices and are offering great pay and benefits. Call Mike at 402-875-1034 to apply. Start your electrical career today.
Integrated Life Choices has been inspiring opportunities for individuals with disabilities for more than 15 years in Lincoln and across Nebraska by offering a number of services. From group homes to independent living resources and job training, you'll find the support that allows people to live fulfilling lives. They're also hiring. If you're looking for a rewarding career supporting people with developmental disabilities, you can check out open positions along with learning more about services at ilc.net. Integrated Life Choices.
Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul. Smoked meats, amazing sides. The only problem when they fix you a plate is that at some point, that plate will be empty. But hear me out. What if that plate was never empty? That dream can be your reality with the Mary Ellen's Express Lunch Buffet. From 11 to 2 every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and even Saturday. One price, all you can eat, and it even comes with a drink. Tell your boss you're taking a long lunch and get down there. Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul at 29th and Pine Lake. Let them fix you a plate.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
Happy hour.
It's really weird also to be like looking at you from these two seats. I've never been able to see your full body when we've done a show.
Do you like what you see?
I don't. I don't.
Mr. I'm working out now because I feel like I'm important.
That's not why I'm working out. I'm working out so I can feel better.
Mm-hmm. I need to start working out because when my daughter gets old enough and she wants to have a boyfriend, I need to be able to beat him up. That's the only thing. I'm not gonna like threaten anybody, but I just need. Oh, 100%.
Weekdays from 1 to 2. Back to the AOE with AD on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Aaron Davis.
Boom, 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 boom. Folks, thanks for joining us on this Wednesday night. It is hump day at The Ticket. It's the AOE attitude over everything. We got Harrison holding down on The Ticket. Got my boy EU out in Omaha, man. Northwestern attendee. Hey, come on, ask you this, man. You've coached at a high level, man. You've worked. You've seen the system. You've been in a lot of locker rooms around the place. Hey, come on, if you were right now, you think about Braun right now, their defensive coordinator, who's only been there for 6 months, probably still learning the kids' names for the most part. Acom, how do you get the locker room back, man?
Yeah, I mean, AD, that's a great question. I think the one of the things that you said earlier before the break was the part of the alleged, and I appreciate the fact that you're saying that because it is alleged, and you are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Unfortunately, we live in a world or society where it's reversed. You're
Great
guilty
point.
to proven innocent, right?
Great point.
So you can say alleged all you want. That stigma is not going to go anywhere, regardless if they come out in a week and say, we found that this XYZ was not substantial. It's still going to have that stigma. So at that point, I think they made a really smart choice in the person, and honestly, it's probably the only choice they had as far as bringing him in from that standpoint, because he can at least separate himself from the prior regime and say that I'm new here. And if you're trying to distance yourself from what happened in the past, having somebody who's not attached to all the stigma of all the things that went on is very vital, right? So I think that his first job, in my opinion, is going to be honestly address those controversies up front. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't try and sweep it under the rug. Act like it didn't happen. Just because you have, to your point, you have a lot of student athletes and parents who are wanting to send their student athletes to Northwestern who are going to be watching. And I think being transparent and just addressing it and dealing with it. Yep, this is what happened, but this is what it's going to be about under my regime. And regardless of, I believe they gave him an interim tag to start with. He's in a tough spot. There's no doubt about it. But I think the best thing that I would say from that standpoint is you have to rebuild two things, right? You have to rebuild the trust with the people the existing people who are still there, right? The people who have lived through this. Some of them are, pro-Pat. Some of them may not be pro-Pat for various different reasons. But you have to rebuild that trust with them. Then you also have to, provide confidence into the people who are coming into that, saying that this is, this might have happened before, but this is not what we're about. So if you come here, it's going to be a safe haven for you to come here and play football and get your education, because those are two things from as a coach, as a father, as, who's had a son who was looking at different schools and things like that. Those are the things that you're going to want to know of what is this new person going to bring that's different, and understanding that this is what's happened, and saying how do we move forward from it. I think to me is probably the most important thing that he's going to have to undertake as being the new leader of that program.
Aiken, you bring up several valuable points right there, man. And if I'm gonna ask you this, let's say this is your son right now, man. Okay. And this is during the season, you're trying to bring recruits in. What do you say if you're Braun? Okay, they're the defensive coordinator that came in from South Dakota State just in January. You're recruiting, because I feel sorry for him too, because it's like he doesn't even know if he's going to be there, Harrison.
Yeah.
No,
you said it when we were talking. Like you even if you feel like you're safe, you're
not.
probably looking at other places.
Absolutely, you better dust off that resume. So, Aiken, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Well, you kind of have to, right? Because that's unfortunately that's the game of being a coach. So from that point, it was a risky move, because I was tuned in to see what we're going to do with the assistants, because while the buck stops with the head man, it's not like the other coaches who were there were not privy to the same information that Coach Fitzgerald was. So what makes their looking away or allegedly looking away, as you say, any different than what he did? So you're going to have to deal with that, understanding that in 6 months after the years is done, they might come in and bring a whole new staff, a whole new regime in.
Right.
So it's just a tough spot to be in, especially when you're looking at, a month and a half before the start of, before you actually kick off games for the 2023 season. So it's just, like I think I told you before, it was Friday, the news came out, and by Monday, he was pretty much done and fired. I was like, that escalated pretty dang quickly. But kind of talking to some of my friends and alumni, and again, my brother who's really plugged in, his
Michael Wilbon is your brother's same class.
People like Mike Wilbon,
yes,
and Kevin Blackstone. So they're a lot deeper into the network of the different things. It's a sad day for anybody who's associated with the program, just because you never want that stuff or that stigmatized to nobody. How do you move forward? I think that's probably the most important thing, is how do you move forward from this cloud? So.
Aiken, I want to
protect those student athletes.
Absolutely. Protect the athletes. And I'm going to ask you this, man. We're going to go to a break. quick little break. And when we come back, E.
Well, this is our last segment already.
This is our last segment already?
Yeah,
Oh.
this is the third one, AD.
Oh, man. Acom, this went fast. I'm going to ask you this.
Yeah, we got about 5 minutes left, so we're good.
I'm going to ask you this, E. With what you just said, man, obviously your brother's being connected with Michael Wilbon as tight as they are because the guys were all in school at the same time. You come into my house, and you actually alluded to this a little bit earlier when you're talking about that regime. This is me. But let's say I have my son, little AD, my oldest one, little AD. Obviously, he's not little anymore. He's in his heading his third year grad school here pretty quick.
Right.
But you're recruiting me, and you're coming in, Acom. You're Coach Braun. What are you going to tell me to make me somewhat even take the recruiting trip to Northwestern? And in light of all that's happened right now, what do you do? What do you tell me as a father?
I think the only thing you can honestly do is, because you can't erase the past, you can't erase the past, and then you can't duck it. In my opinion, you can't duck it. All you can go in there is, and at the end of the day, you're having to sell yourself as leader of it. Sell yourself as the new or interim head coach on what you're going to bring to the table, what you believe in, and what you stand for. And I think because of some of the issues with whether it be the hazing or some of the racist or racism undertones of things that have happened, you have to address those things and address how you're going to be different and how you look at things different and equitably. And I think that's the only way that you can win in that, and be able to talk to a parent and instill confidence in that parent and that recruit that things are going to be different, and this is still a stable program. Because as you know, you were in a locker room in Nebraska. It's not like, and this is just my opinion, I don't think it was something that everybody. It was a team-wide thing that was happening. This was just the norm. I think it was a group or a position group or two that were doing these different things, and unfortunately, they looked away or didn't dress them the way that they should have. And what you're going to have to do is instill those things. We live in a day and age where there's just certain things that you could do 20 years ago that you can't do now,
right? That
are not acceptable now. And I think what you have to do is be able to instill some type of confidence in your character and what you believe in and what you're going to do to be different, while still providing the stability and the education and all the different things that come with actually attending Northwestern. You know, we joke about it, but I think it's one of those things where you actually get a chance to play football, basketball, lacrosse, baseball, whatever, at a high level, but also get the academic side of it too at a high level. So, you know, when you leave with a degree from Northwestern, you're set up for success for the most part. So that's the kind of things you have to sell. And those are the kind of things you have to let them know that, you know what, it's going to be different. And unfortunately, these things happen. We don't stand for them. This is what we stand for. We stand for equity. We stand for, not the childish hazing, the different things that happen. I think those are the kind of things that you're going to have to go in there and sell, just as if you were going in and selling a Lexus at a Lexus dealership, you're going to have to sell it. And those people are going to have to believe in what you're saying and believe that your character is going to override those things. So it's a tough situation. So it's easier to say. I can sit here and say it all day, but it's a lot harder when you're sitting in that living room talking to a parent who's watching ESPN and seeing all this stuff going on. So,
Acom, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you being on with us tonight, man. The attitude over everything. Our prayer, dear Lord, the battles we go through in life, we ask for a chance that's fair, a chance to equal our stride, a chance to do or dare. If we should win, let it be by the code, faith and honor held high. If we should lose, we'll stand by the road as the cheers and winners go by. Day by day, get better and better. A team that won't be beat can't be beat. Acom, Udofia, EU, my best friend. Love you, appreciate you. Northwestern, Acom, we'll have you back on the show. Folks, how do you keep the locker room sacred when desecration has come in? We'll talk more about that as well. It's the AOE. We got my man Harrison holding it down. We're out of here. It's Wednesday night, folks. Have a great night. It's Thursday tomorrow. You got this. It's The Ticket. We'll be out.
Harrison, that was all. This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman.